Hello, and this is the Silver Jubilee episode of the Deliberate Talks podcast. And I'm your host since the last 25 weeks, Dakshin Adyanthaya, bringing you exciting updates and introducing you to amazing individuals every Monday. And on this special episode, I have someone who's going to talk us through about his amazing business journey and introduce us to the world of online classifieds. But before that, here's a quick intro to our topic with some interesting thought starters. According to the Comscore Media Matrix, Craigslist was one of the first online classified sites and has grown to become the largest classified source in the world. Back in 2016, Google India and KPMG's report, Digital Classifieds in India 2020, predicted that the digital classified industry in India will grow to become $1.2 billion market by this year. The leading players in this category include brands like Quikr, Suleka, Justdial, and OLX. But how has this year been for the digital classified business? How did the lockdown affect the businesses? And what's the future for it? All this and more with our guest today, right after this intro.
This is the Deliberate Talks Weekly Podcast, powered by the Pixelated Egg Digital Ventures. Tune in every week to learn something new about digital marketing and entrepreneurship. And now, over to the voice of your host, Dakshin Adyanthaya. Enjoy the show.
So in today's episode, we have someone who built the OLX Autos business from scratch in India in the last couple of years. He's a graduate from IIT Bombay and ISB Hyderabad. Prior to this, his career stint included building multiple businesses in the space of e-commerce, classifieds, automotive, and FMCG domains. Currently, he's the CEO of OLX Autos India. Here's introducing Amit Kumar. Hello Amit, welcome to the Deliberate Talks podcast. It's great to have you on the show today.
It's my pleasure, Dakshin. Always good to interact with new people, know more, learn more, discover more.
Great. Diving in straight into our conversation, Amit. Curious to clear my doubts that OLX Autos was previously called Cash My Car. Did you see any particular reason or concern that you identified that it had to be rebranded?
Dakshin, so that's a very good question to ask. But let me give you a bit of context to what we have made OLX Autos.
Right.
OLX as a platform has been in this country and a part of everyday lives of so many of our people for more than a decade. It is one of the leading classifieds brand in the country which people use on a day in and day out basis. And I credit OLX with changing the habit of people and really finding the value in used products. And when we developed this platform, and I joined OLX almost 3 years ago now, OLX is the leading platform when it comes to used cars in online classifieds.
Right.
So close to 70 to 80% market share, 20,000 cars getting listed on the platform every day. And that's the sort of spread, depth and breadth that the platform has, or the sway that the platform has in the used car ecosystem in the country. And this is OLX online platform.
Right.
And when we sort of looked at our consumer and the evolution of the consumer and the industry, we realized that there is an emerging set of consumers which is more convenience seeking. They really don't want to list their car on the classifieds platform. They don't want to talk to 10, 15 different consumers, talk to 5 of them, give them test ride, and then haggle for money and the eventual transfer of paperwork. And that's where we created this platform called OLX Cash My Car, which was a retail platform, which still is a retail platform where you walk in with your car and walk out with money.
Okay.
Right. And that's the journey, and that's the platform that I built for OLX in last couple of years. Very successful. FY19, we did close to $78 million in GMV, large team spread across 17 cities, etc., etc. And I think, again, the evolution is of consumer needs and understanding of consumer is at the heart of what I'm talking about. And we realized that the process of buying cars is also a frictionful process, multiple hoops that the customer needs to cross,
Right.
the trust in the quality of the car. Can I get a warranty? Can I get an insurance? And that's when we started OLX Autos franchisees, which started selling cars to the consumer also with all these services which help the consumer make a better decision.
Right.
And in that process, in last 3 years, what we've done, Dakshin, is we have a very strong online platform, and we created a parallel offline journey for the consumer.
Mm-hmm.
Now, OLX Autos is basically bringing it all together under one umbrella. So it is our omni-channel platform which serves to any customer need of buying or selling cars online or offline.
Mm-hmm.
It's a tight-knit journey. We go to the customer wherever he or she wants us. If the customer wants us in her phone app, we are there. If the customer wants us in a nearby retail center, we are there. And that's how we've built OLX Autos.
Right.
Today, we have more than 100 retail centers. We help the customer buy a car, sell a car, buy different value-added services on top of that car. And that's what OLX Autos as an umbrella is today.
Fantastic. Wow. And like you mentioned again about it, the trusting factor. What used to be more recommended way of buying cars were things like asking friends via word of mouth, and now moved on to the digital over years with asking recommendations on forums and social media. But the credibility still remains to be a concern for brands. So how is OLX Autos dealing with this? Like you spoke, integrating online and offline experience, and you also talk a lot about the stringent process in a lot of your conversations and talks. So what is the stringent inspection process and how does it fall in place?
That's a fantastic question, Dakshin, and this helps people understand how we care for them at every stage of the journey of a car.
Right.
See what happens when you come to sell your car to an OLX Autos retail center or our app. We try and get as much information about your car as possible so that we are making it transparent on both sides, the buyer and the seller.
Mm-hmm.
And we are actually digitizing and standardizing information about a used car. What we have to understand is that every used car is unique.
Mm-hmm.
The purchase and sell decision of a used car, we're trying to make it transparent and simple by giving structure to the information of a used car so that people have more understanding about that transaction. The transaction is simpler, and eventually there is low friction and high trust. And in that context, our inspection process plays a very, very critical role.
Right.
Our inspection process is a 250-point process, the objective of which is to create a digital image of your used car's condition,
mm-hmm.
which anyone can understand and interpret in almost a similar manner. Right? Which gives you more buyers or which allows you to buy that car in a more simplified manner.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's the intent of our digital inspection process.
Right. And how complicated is this process? When you say process, people freak out, right? Thinking about the fact that it's a lot of paperwork and formalities that comes with it. So how do you simplify this process?
So the good thing is that this process is taken care of by OLX Autos. Okay. So we have highly trained, experienced inspection engineers at our retail stores who go through this process with the car seller, explain the process to him or her, the reason behind this process, and then do this process. So our consumer doesn't have to do it, right. But our consumer can, if he or she wants, understand it. And to give you an example, right? Mm-hmm. And I've been very new to the auto space. It's just been 3 years. Mm-hmm. The kind of smoke that comes out of your car, a black, blue, white, or different kind of smoke has very different implication on the engine condition of that car. Mm-hmm. Right? Is there clutch noise in the car? Right. Is the clutch easy to press or it's hard to press? Is the steering easy or the steering hard? Now, we as consumers do not really care about this, or we get it repaired from a service center or wherever, right? Mm-hmm. But All these are somewhat critical factors in determining the price of a used car.
Right.
And that's the process we are trying to standardize and simplify for our consumers.
Right. And normally, how long does this process take?
So our digital inspection takes around 30 to 45 minutes. That's it.
Oh.
It's so simple, and our people do it well.
Mm-hmm. Oh, right. Great. You know, what used to be a few years ago, the ratio of a new car to used cars was around 1 is to 1.2, which is now around 1 is to 2.2 or 1 is to 3. Please correct me if I've got my data wrong. But basically, what I'm trying to say here is when every 10 new cars are sold, 22 to 30 cars are available for sale in the market. But honestly, how unorganized is the online market for used cars?
Dakshin, thanks for your research. Let me correct you a bit.
Please do.
A few years ago, this ratio used to be around 1.2.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, this ratio is around 1.3 to 1.4.
Great.
So in a country like ours, for example, approximately 3 million new cars get sold to the consumer every year.
Mm-hmm.
Our understanding, at least in the year 2019, was that a multiplier of 1.3 gets applied and around 4 million used cars get transacted in a country like ours.
Right.
Where you are right is that this multiplier is what is a critical factor in driving the growth of used car industry.
Mm-hmm.
And in some of the evolved markets, this multiplier is as high as 2.5.
Mm-hmm.
So at the same base of new cars, more used cars get transacted. And that's the growth that is one of the growth drivers. One, the total number of new cars getting pumped on the road in this country is going to increase. Right. And second, this multiplier is also going to increase.
Absolutely.
Now, when we come to the used car space, online or offline, I would say that the offline space is largely unorganized, with 15,000 dealer partners actually work with OLX on an ongoing basis. The overall number of dealer partners in the country is much higher.
Mm-hmm.
So we believe that 80% of this space offline is unorganized.
Right.
And as OLX, we are working with our dealer partners to give them systems, processes, and organize this whole thing. And that is where also OLX Autos as an initiative is playing a very big role through its franchisees. So we train our dealer partners, we help them source inventory, we help them sell inventory. In general, and that has been my personal motto in life, Dakshin, how do I empower SMEs which actually make the economy of this country to do more business? And I think that's the pleasure that I get in this. Coming to the online part of the business, online is more organized, Dakshin, with a lot of competition around in the online space, and OLX actually being the flagship which is helping the unorganized offline space becoming organized online, helping them digitize their businesses, enabling them, training them, teaching them so that they can expand their businesses and cater to what the consumer wants.
Right, right. And I'm also going to be touching upon a category which isn't much spoken about when it comes to used cars. Tell me, Amit, what's the status of electric cars in our country when it comes to used cars? And how is that going to be shaping up in the near future?
Technology disruption and innovation is something that every industry should watch out for. I think used car as an industry has great days ahead, because at the end of the day, what we do as used car industry is digitize and standardize the used car transaction. Our job will be the same when it comes to electric cars. But electric cars are slightly different from our current internal combustion cars. Right? They are simpler pieces of machines, lesser moving parts, battery being one more critical piece of that car. But in general, if you look at it from a distance, the role of the industry in making the used car as an asset more fungible, more transactable remains the same. Right? So I think as electric cars come into play, we as used car industry will be able to help transact that asset more. So the industry ideally should grow more.
Right. And the perception is anyway a challenge, right? When it comes to used cars, people are already making a decision to opt for a good brand or a good car, but not necessarily an electric car yet, right?
So Dakshin, there my perspective is the following. Eventually, anyone who takes the decision of owning an asset like car in our country,
Mm-hmm.
it is pre-COVID, car was not an essential asset, right? It
Right.
was more in that zone where you buy a car when you come to a certain stage as a family or in your life.
Right.
I think what matters in case of an asset like this is total cost of ownership,
Hmm.
right? And if total cost of ownership as mathematics starts to work practically on the ground in favor of electric cars, then you will see adoption of electric cars in new cars as well as used cars.
Hmm. Makes sense. Makes sense. Right. Now let's talk about this year, Amit. This year significantly saw growth for used cars, and if I'm not wrong, during the lockdown, mainly because people are now concerned about traveling in public transports and also the budget constraints that they have to invest in a new car. But what are the other concerns which have turned in your favor for this category? And how has the marketing changed or how has the communication changed for you during this time when you talk to your customers?
Used cars as a category, not only in India, but if you look at Europe, US, and all the key markets, has grown, or I would say has rebounded much faster in the post-lockdown world.
Mm-hmm.
And the roots of it lie in us understanding the pattern with which people spend in environments of economic uncertainty. And really, we operate OLX as a platform in more than 40 countries, and we've been operating these platforms for more than a decade now. Our understanding is that whenever there are times of economic uncertainty, when things are in flux, individuals and families are hesitant to make long-term capital commitment. And that is when the preference shifts from buying a expensive new car or a value new car to a used car. A used car can be cheaper compared to a new car, anywhere between 20 to 70%, depending on the age, depending upon the mileage, depending upon the brand, etc. If you're looking at a 10-year-old used car, you will get it really cheap, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that is the fundamental shift that is happening in our country as well as in US. To quote you some specific figures, in US, the used cars prices have risen by more than 10%.
Mm-hmm.
In US, they are attributing 0% of their inflation to the increase in the prices of used cars in the country. In our case, that data is not so easily correlatable and available.
Mm-hmm.
That's the shift that is happening underlying. And I would argue that this shift is not just for used cars, but in general, till the times of economic uncertainty persist, this is a shift in behavior that is happening in a lot of our choices that we make in our behavior. Do we really want to buy a new laptop today? Do we really want to buy a new asset for the house today? Or do we really want to buy a new house today?
Right, right. But has there been any significant change in the communication to market this better?
The marketing around used cars fundamentally is about educating the consumer, at least in the digital world, is that they have a lot of choices. It is a good choice to make, an easier choice to make. The consumer in this country is getting to know the digital platforms like OLX at a rapid pace.
Right.
And now they are able to understand that it's not as complex a thing to buy a used car or sell a used car as it used to be earlier. Fundamentally, platforms like OLX have made used cars a more fungible asset.
Right.
Whether you want to sell or buy, it's a different question.
Right. Okay. You touched upon this in various conversations, but again, from a personal point of understanding. Amit, higher customer acquisition cost, achieving profitability, limited control are some of the concerns when it comes to online classifieds. What are your business concerns and how are you working towards improving this?
Dakshin, so OLX as a platform is a platform which has existed for more than a decade.
Right.
And as a platform where we've reached that stage where, as far as used cars is concerned, 70 to 80% of the used cars in this country get listed on our platform every month, every day. And that is the strength that we've developed because of the strong marketing that we did till, let's say, 2015 to 2017. Till 2017, I would argue. Now, the customer is aware of OLX as a platform, and what we are trying to do is to make the customer more aware of the ease of transaction that we bring in as OLX. There is newer use case for OLX. Earlier, you could list the platform, list your car online on the platform. Now you can do a physical transaction. Now you can go to our store, get your car inspected, and that inspected car will be posted on the online platform. So our communication agenda right now is to make our customers aware of the newer services that we provide to them, and how do those services like warranty, like insurance, like consumer financing make their used car transaction easy and with peace of mind.
Right, right, right. By the way, where is your maximum customer base located from? The metro cities?
As OLX, non-metros are almost the same as metros for us, because we are a very deeply penetrated platform with a reach or to more than 3,000 cities in this country. We have a very large direct sales team which is working with our dealer partners across more than 200 to 300 cities also. So we are a very deeply penetrated platform when it comes to the length and breadth of this country.
Right. So then extending that, how is OLX Autos focusing on customizing and localizing content to get more traction from the customers, especially the tier 2 cities in India?
That's a good question, Dakshin. There is an understanding that the car transaction and the used car transaction process specifically, from a language perspective, is not very deeply impacted. At the same time, we do make efforts to customize and make our platforms vernacular, and we operate this platform in more than 40 countries. So we have a sense on which category, when, what kind of language to customize to our platform.
And what are the mediums, what are the platforms that you are using to communicate with your customers?
Given that we get 80% of the car sellers on the platform, it is OLX app which is the most important source of communication for us. This app, we have the whole gamut of car buyers and sellers, and then we communicate the whole journey to these consumers on our platform using educational content, using content which helps them move forward in their journey, using guidance on how to transact that car. Is it the right time to transact that car? Is it indicatively the price is that in the right zone? What sort of caution to take in terms of paperwork? We educate the customer on our platform, which is where we should be, because that's where the customer is.
Right. Makes sense. Okay. Now, to conclude our first round of conversation, Amit, how does the future of digital classified business look like?
The future of digital classifieds business is very, very promising. The digital classifieds business fundamentally creates value of things which can be used more. And as OLX as a global platform, we do take into account the kind of green impact that we create on this earth, and we do believe that that is one big contribution that we as OLX make to the overall sort of ecosystem, people in general to this earth. To quote you some figures, Dakshin, as OLX, we help transactions of smartphones, tablets, laptops also globally, and we are a platform with more than 300 million visitors.
Right.
We save close to 750,000 tons of carbon dioxide annually, which is close to 50,000 trees capturing carbon dioxide for more than 30 years.
Right. Wow.
Right. And I think this is pure positive impact that we as online classifieds are having on this earth, on this humanity. And we're helping find value in a lot of places where people either don't think there exists enough, or they think that the process is too cumbersome, and we make it easy for them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's our global purpose as well.
Great. Great. Amazing stuff, Amit. I'm quickly moving on to our next round. But before that, a short plug.
Friend us on your socials and let's connect.
So now we enter the rapid fire round of questions. I'm going to be shooting at you a few quick questions, and you need to be really prompt at this with your answers. So ready for this?
Sure.
Great. 3 reasons why people should use OLX Autos as a service.
It's easy, it's simple, and you can trust.
Okay. Most common myths when it comes to used cars.
It is difficult to buy or sell a used car.
Okay. Most common myths when it comes to online classified business.
It is difficult to find the right buyer or seller for my product, and my product will not generate enough value.
Great. Average lifespan, banking offerings, upgrading to a luxury car, which is the most common trend that you see that people opt for when it comes to used cars.
So the average lifespan is a very, very critical parameter that we look at.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at, let's say, 3-4 years ago, or maybe 5 years ago, an average car with an Indian person used to stay for 7 to 8 years.
Okay.
Now that holding period has come down to around 4. And this is what is pushing that multiplier from 1.2 to 1.3 and onwards.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. Right. And which are these car segments and which are these car brands that are the most popular ones on OLX Autos?
As OLX Autos, because we represent 80% of the overall used car ecosystem, we get almost every car starting from Rolls-Royce and Maserati, Lamborghini to Maruti 800 and all the value cars. So we have everything.
But which car gets the maximum inquiries for?
That's a representative of the market, right? Maruti is the market leader, so they will have the most supply and the most demand.
Okay. And finally, how does 2021 look for OLX Autos?
I'm really hopeful for 2021. 2020 has been a difficult year for all of us as humanity. We've had a tough time with the coronavirus. I'm hopeful that we get the vaccine as early as possible. That will take all of us out of this pain and these closed rooms. That will help the used car industry. That will, of course, help OLX Autos grow much faster, go to newer horizons. Yeah. And personally, I look to scale those newer horizons and newer peaks with OLX Autos.
Nice. And that's a wrap to the rapid fire round. I'm going to quickly move into our last round of question, which is from a thread. And the user states, I come from a small town in India and I intend to start my own classified business. While building the platform isn't the trouble, I want to understand how profitable is a classified business and what are the ways one can make money from it.
That's a beautiful question, Dakshin, for the person who has asked this. OLX has been in the classifieds industry for more than a decade now. And I've been a part of e-commerce / classifieds industry for almost more than a decade now. Classifieds businesses are about simplifying the journey of a transaction. It is a far simpler journey compared to, let's say, an e-commerce journey. But these platforms make money at scale. And these platforms work on two-sided network effects. You have to have enough supply to attract buyers, and you have to have enough buyers to attract supply.
Mm-hmm.
Once these network effects, or what we internally call flywheels, start to turn, then classifieds businesses can be very, very profitable.
Mm-hmm.
In general, classifieds businesses are profitable at scale.
Right. And what are the ways one can make money from it apart from this? Like the AdSense or any other ways that they can monetize this from?
So classifieds businesses get monetized in many different ways globally.
Mm-hmm.
Classifieds businesses can monetize the consumer who's listing the product for sell on the platform. And there can be a fixed fee per listing or a discounted fee. The same charge can be applied to the businesses which want to use that classifieds platform for getting responses. And then classifieds platform can help transaction platforms like OLX Cash My Car make their businesses bigger. Of course, they make money from the traffic that they get around AdSense, etc.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, you charge money from the supply, from the demand, and the businesses who benefit from the demand and the supply.
Right. Fantastic stuff, Amit. That pretty much brings us to the end of our conversation. Thank you so much for enlightening us about the online classified space and what OLX Autos does for its customers. I hope you had a good time conversing on the show.
Thank you very much, Dakshin. It was a pleasure for me to discuss the nuances of classified businesses and to talk about our journey as OLX Autos. Great journey lies ahead of us in the next year, with hopefully the vaccine coming in soon and all of us feeling better about going out.
Right. Absolutely. And I wish OLX Autos and you all the very best for the next year. Thank you so much for your time, Amit. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dakshin. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you. Well, that's the end of our 25th week of talking to 25 amazing guests. But if you still have any feedback about the show to make our experience better for the next 25 episodes, please mail it to thedeliberatetalks@gmail.com. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Spotify, Google Podcast, Amazon Audible, and Apple Podcast, apart from the social media platforms of the Deliberate Talks and the Pixelated Egg Digital Ventures. Join in this Friday for a bonus episode. Until then, have a wonderful week ahead and don't forget to inspire and be inspired.